it's okay to start spending your money and enjoying it.
Good morning, everyone. Welcome to another great episode of Mint Money, where we talk about all things personal finance in the great state of Michigan. Today, I couldn't be happier to be joined by a great coworker of mine, Debbie. Debbie, welcome to the podcast studio.
Thanks, Will.
How's it going this morning?
Great. Thanks for having me.
Absolutely. No, I couldn't be happier to have you on and then also talk about some of these great topics today. And so just as a little bit of background, Debbie, you work over on the administrative side of the bank, right? With Kevin?
I do. Mm-hmm.
And you've been with TriStar, I think, since the founding with Debbie and Jane, right?
That is correct, Will. I was actually the first employee. It was the three founders and myself that we started in a house on...
A farmhouse, right?
A farmhouse in Saginaw on State Street. Yes,
Yeah.
So we've come a long way.
Mm-hmm. Certainly a long way. And that was, just as a clarification, that was over in Saginaw, right?
That's correct.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
Perfect. And so, Debbie, I'm so happy to be talking about some of these great topics with you today. And so, because you work so well with so many other people, not only internally within TriStar, but then also externally with clients, prospects, so many people out in the community too, can you discuss any trends or shifts you've observed in recent years regarding women's attitudes towards retirement planning and financial independence? Now, I know it's a mouthful, but when you go think about your traditional roles, and I hate using that word, those traditional roles, but when you think about male, female, who might be more slated towards, maybe more on the female side or male side, males have historically taken on more of those tasks and responsibilities, whether that's right or wrong. I know there's a lot of disagreement, at least internally here, but do you mind talking about that just a little bit?
Well, you're right. I mean, men traditionally have taken on those roles, but I see a greater emphasis in recent years where women are working on their financial independence. They're taking steps to secure their financial future. They're saving more, investing wisely, and actively planning for retirement. Women are actually making the decision to put retirement off and delay retirement in order to maximize their Social Security benefits. The trend is driven by longer life expectancies, the desire to remain active in the workforce. A lot of women love what they're doing and they choose to work longer, and the need to save more for retirement.
And so in regards to that, why do you think historically, this is just me just being more curious more than anything else, why do you think historically it's been more from, as what we were talking about at the beginning, more that male focus that, that those responsibilities were historically drawn for retirement planning and more that finance side of the balance sheet for men versus women? Because obviously we wish it'd be more of a 50-50 split, but it's interesting just how things also evolve over time too.
Sure. Well, a lot of women didn't have the desire or the interest in finances before, but I think more they're just taking an interest, and again, they're living longer and they want to provide for their lives and make sure that they have enough monies at the end of life. And to achieve those goals, women have very lofty goals now too. They want to travel and do all these great things. So,
especially without the wrong roadmap, possibly it could lead to less than desired outcomes too. You might be going to, it's not nothing bad going, traveling, internally within the state, but if you have a lifelong dream of going to Italy and going to Europe, it's a lot different. I mean, you can't drive to Europe,
right?
At least not to my knowledge. Not yet, right? Not without some tech advances. But looking ahead, Debbie, in your opinion, what do you think is the most pressing challenge or opportunities in the field for retirement planning for women?
I think the investment gap is both an opportunity and a challenge. Generally, women are more risk-adverse investors, so they're not saving as much in their retirement accounts over time. Educating women about investing, encouraging them to take appropriate steps, and maybe increase the risk can help build up more substantial wealth over time.
So why do you think women, when you think about investing and risk tolerance, why do you think women might be a little more conservative within that realm? I know it's a tough question, and that's
they don't really understand the risk that needs to be taken. That's why financial planning is so important too, because everyone's end goals are different. It's, if you want to travel or if you want to leave $1 million to your children, how are we going to help you get to those end goals? So it's important just to have a plan as early as possible.
Absolutely. And I think too, I really do wish that they just talked more about this in school, or I get why you don't talk about this in everyday life, right? There's some television and financial media that lightly talks about it, but other than nerds like myself, I don't know other people who might be tuning in to go watch it.
Right.
Quite candidly and quite honestly too. And so do you view any other unique challenges that are more pressing to women? You know, we talked about investing tolerances. You talked about maybe investing a little more conservatively, but are there any other challenges that might surprise people?
You know what? Well, I think so. Women are more likely to delay their retirement due to financial concerns. Actually, 43% of women expect to retire after the age of 65.
Wow.
And I think that is kind of surprising and alarming. A lot of factors play into that. The wage gap. On average, women don't make as much money as men, so they're not saving as much. That continues to be an issue. Career interruptions. Women are having families or they're caregivers for elderly parents. So that also is going to impede their retirement. Longevity. Women live longer, so they rely on Social Security longer. They have health care issues that they have to plan for down the road. And then lower access to employer plans. A lot of women work part-time or they come and go through their career, so they're not saving as much. So again, I think it's education and planning.
And so for yourself over your career, what's been the most impactful piece of education or something that you've learned across the way? Just out of curiosity, was it a pivotal book? Because at least for myself, kind of the aha moment, this isn't necessarily a revelation, but it's The Millionaire Next Door. I think it's written by Thomas Stanley. I could be getting the author wrong. I apologize if I'm getting the name of that book wrong, or sorry, the author's name wrong, but it really showed, your common millionaire, hypothetical millionaire next door, and they're not driving the Mercedes-Benz. They're not golfing every single day of the week. People that you would never expect would have a lot of money unexpectedly do. And so for yourself, what's been that, that key kind of aha moment behind a lot of this?
You're right. A lot of people don't show that off. They don't they don't find the need to or what have you. But saving early, I've had a lot of personal mentors early on that believed in me. And being a single mom, raising two sons on my own, I never had the option of excess money. And so when I got into the industry and with TriStar and just learning from my clients some of the things that worked for them, like you said, the Millionaire Next Door or the envelope method, and really people that have millions of dollars that still practice that because that's what helped them achieve that. So I've learned a lot from my clients along the way.
Do you ever find it tough for clients, so you save for 40 years of your life. So let's just go pretend 25, 65 hits, boom, I'm retired. Do you ever have clients that are just surprised, when they finally get across the finish line, like, what do we do now? We've been saving our whole life. How do we even spend this money?
Absolutely. It's definitely a mind shift. I just visited a great friend of mine who is a financial planner. I went to visit her last weekend. And so she's done that her whole career and advised people, and how different it was for her even. She's going, it is so different now that I'm spending my money. So I think it does take a good year or two to get into your new norm and learning that it's okay. You've worked hard all those years. It's okay to start spending your money and enjoying it. Again, everyone has different end goals. So sometimes if you want to spend all your money and when you check out, if it's your last buck, it's okay. But if you want, if you have philanthropic goals at the end of life, or you want to leave money to children or other things, everyone's story is different. And it's just important, again, to stick to that financial plan.
And so to help really bridge that gap, you mentioned, it could take a good year or two to really go get in that mindset too. And so have you seen or recommended anything that has been like really influential for people? And so for instance, I've heard for some people, go out there, that dream vacation, go take it. Go take that vacation or go buy that good car. Go buy that convertible.
I love to tell clients that. That's one of my favorite things is when we're in meetings and you and I have a lot of client meetings together, and their financial plan, they've had 100% success in their financial plan. Personally, I think if you have over 70%, you're leaving life on the table. So again, go enjoy that. I think it's important to. I've recently, last decade, been working with a woman who said she wanted to retire at the age of 60. So that's a pretty lofty goal. We got together, developed her asset allocation, her strategic investment plan, did a financial plan, and met with her regularly to make sure that she's on course. You know what? She's going to turn 60 next year. She's going to retire confidently and comfortably, and all because she was really disciplined along the way. There was changes that needed to be made. Sometimes she had to save a little bit more, cut back on expenses, but she did it. And as long as you're disciplined, you start early, you start participating in those 401k plans little by little. I mean, a little bit helps, right? So
Absolutely. Well, especially just over such a long-term time horizon too. And so I know you mentioned it just a couple times. Do you have when you go look back, like a nice success story or best practice that you've heard from other women who have successfully navigated that and really achieved financial security?
Well, as I just shared, the one woman who I've been working with for a decade, but another one that I'm really proud of her because a few years back, I was working with an elderly couple. He was going to be retiring in the next few years, did his own investing himself, but wanted to introduce his wife to a company and someone that she could become comfortable with and take care of her should he pass away. So she came to the meetings regularly, begrudgingly, because she did not enjoy finances. She didn't understand them. But nonetheless, she came. She was asking some great questions. And so when he passed about a decade later, she looks forward to those meetings. She comes prepared every time with really great notes, and she enjoys that. And I'm really proud of her. So I think it's never too late to learn. I also have another woman that I've been working with who's great, but she chooses to work longer, as we had talked about earlier in this segment, so that she's able to give back. It's really important for her. She saved money along the way, raising her family and such, wasn't able to give back to her community. But now that she's at this stage of her life, that's what she's working for, totally to give back to her community, which I love.
Oh, it's just so special too. I mean, to really have that much of an ethos to where I could be spending these dollars for myself. I could buy a new car, could go on a cruise, could go on a flight over to Europe, but instead I'd rather see that money at play to really help benefit others.
Right.
Which is so powerful.
Yeah.
So powerful.
It's a fine line.
Yeah, sure. No, I could certainly see that. And so, Debbie, in your opinion, there's a lot of cultural factors, a lot of societal factors at play that mainly have a more greater impact on women than men. And so, for instance, someone could possibly get widowed. Someone could get divorced. There's also pay gaps and what that retirement spending could look like too. And so, let alone you're thinking about this whole time, I really should be trying to save for retirement, save for my own financial goals, but I have these major life disruptions going on. And so in your opinion, for people that you've also helped guide them through these different journeys, these different life events, what have been some of those key successful things that really help people out?
Again, to start saving early. I think it's a great life lesson for young people such as yourself. I mean, start saving early. That compounding, it adds up significantly over time. Contribute at least enough in your plans, your retirement plans, to get that full match. Again, that adds up. You can always make adjustments, but the earlier you start, the more successful you're going to be in the end.
And so is there ever an age that I should not start contributing? Because I'm almost 30, Debbie. Now, as a full disclosure, I have been saving. But is there never an age that's too late to start saving?
It's never too late. It's never too late. As I said, the elderly couple that I worked with, and again, being risk adverse, she has CDs sprinkled all over, helping to educate her over time and helping her consolidate that for better control over her end of life goals has been very helpful too.
Oh, I can only imagine. And so we're talking about all these life events, Debbie. And so how can women really empower themselves to help take control of their financial future to go really help ensure a comfortable retirement?
Yeah, educate. I think education is very important, not just for women, obviously, but for men. Educate them on their finances, budgeting, savings, investing, and retirement planning. Set financial goals, both short term and long term, including retirement, home ownership, education, and travel. As you were saying, you're 30. When do you start saving? You have all these different buckets and different goals that you want to save for. You should set specific, measurable, achievable, and time bound goals to stay focused and motivated. Plan for the possibility of those life events, divorce, home ownership, marriage, children. You need to plan accordingly and meet with your advisor regularly and have your plan updated as those goals change.
Absolutely. You bring up a really good point because throughout as I'm just envisioning for myself, these life events have happened. And so getting married, buying a house, having child number 1, having child number 2, but along the way, maybe it's, just a lack of, whether it's education or things going here and here. Those are some things that I guess I didn't take more fully into picture. Like, for example, daycare costs. And don't get me wrong, I can completely understand why daycare costs the way they are because, hey, those people, you're entrusted to go watch your kids. So I'm not saying a gripe about anything like that, but I think for a lot of people, that cost could be a surprise for people too.
Right.
And so for a lot of these life events, that's a really good point you bring up because, okay, so you venture, let's just go say you buy a house, you get married, two pretty big financial, it's one big financial event after another. And so to really help build that in. And so we're just going to lay an example out there. And so rather than save, let's go put all my excess savings in the retirement plan, which, hey, that's great. Jane Hagan, our director of retirement planning, might not like this, but maybe cut back a little bit.
It's okay.
Help save for your housing. That's okay. If you start early enough, you got 40 years to save for retirement. So
right, you can always step on the gas at a later time.
Absolutely. And so, are there, in your opinion, cultural or societal attitudes towards money and retirement that disproportionately impact women more than men, at least in your opinion?
Most definitely. Women live longer. They're spending more in their retirement years as single. They're spending more on health care, and they also have a greater reliance on Social Security. So you need to start, saving again as early as possible and work with a financial planner on your specific goals.
So talking broadly speaking, I know healthcare is certainly on top of minds for a lot of people as they go into retirement. And so how can people better educate themselves? Because I think people think for retirement, okay, I got my set of money, I got my Social Security, but that healthcare factor is pretty big because as you're actively working, most employers provide healthcare for their employees or some type of access for healthcare. And so for retirees, I guess, what have been some ways that you've seen people really bridge that gap well?
There's a lot of different companies or individuals out there that will help you walk through that process. Again, I think it's a misconception that people think Medicare is going to cover your health care during retirement, and obviously that's not the case. So you can work with certain individuals. Some charge a fee, some do not, but they're going to walk you through that process, help you make the right decision on what plan you should go through, what kind of medications you're on. Because once you make that decision, it's pretty hard to change your mind. So it's imperative, again, to work with professionals that are going to help you make that.
Yeah, absolutely. Plan ahead right now, spend 10, 15 hours. Okay, that could be a gross exaggeration, not to go scare anyone, but spend the time now. So then as you think about overtime, you're like, man, 15 years on from now, I really should have got more dental work or a better dental plan set up, right?
Absolutely. I think it's kind of frightening. Where do people go for advice if they don't have that trusted advisor? And making these long-term decisions that are so overwhelming, everyone needs help.
I saw a crazy statistic. Now, this relates to investing direct like mutual fund investing rather than retirement planning specifically or other things like that. But people spend more time trying to pick out what they're going to watch on a yearly basis on Netflix or other streaming services than thinking about what they're investing in. And don't get me wrong, I can certainly see how there could be, whether you're throwing out financial pieces of jargon at people, whether you're trying to go think about, what's going on, the Dow Jones Industrial or the NASDAQ every single day. And so I understand some of the barriers that could be in place, but it has a big impact on your future. Huge impact.
I never thought of it that way, Will, but
Yeah.
you're probably right.
Yeah.
But I think it's so overwhelming that people don't even know where to begin.
Yeah. And it's just getting over that first initial stage. And it's going to be scary for anyone getting started because, it's like learning something new. But that's why eventually you learn something new. You build up those building blocks. And so eventually you do start to get to understand.
Right.
And so, Debbie, my last closing question for you. So 2 questions. If people want to go get and connect over to you, what are some good resources for listeners or viewers out there?
You can always contact me at TriStar Trust, Deborah.Briguglio, Briguglio at TriStarTrust.com, or you can contact me at the office, 989-492-7620, and me and someone from my team would be happy to meet with you and help you get your personal plan set for you.
Perfect. And then any parting thoughts or perspectives for listeners and also viewers out there too? Last piece of advice, or maybe a piece of advice that you wish or someone wished that you could have heard maybe when you were just starting out at TriStar?
Absolutely. I think a couple misconceptions for women, not just women, but everyone, that Social Security will fully support you. That is not the case. Social Security will only replace about 40% of your income. So it's important for you to replace that other to the rest of it. If you log into ssa.gov, you can actually go in there and see what your benefits might be. So that will help you plan maybe somewhat in the future for what that income looks like. Also, 65 is the standard retirement age. Again, that's not true. Standard retirement age is, depending on your year of birth, it's gradually increasing from 66 and 6 months all the way to 67 now for people who are born 60 and later. So sorry, Will, for some of you. I mean, by the time that you are getting closer to that age, it could be 70 before is your full retirement age. So again, you have to plan accordingly. And it's just important, ladies, to take an active role in your financial planning and get started as early as possible.
Couldn't have a better closing thought than that. So appreciate Debbie coming on and appreciate everyone listening to another great episode of Mid Money. Until next time.